Okay, so here's a 2007 Nissan Murano. I took the fan out, I took the battery out, battery tray, all right here, super easy. 12 millimeter on the battery tray bolts, 10 millimeter on the battery, of course, the post. Got the battery out. I unplugged the two fan plugs on the top here. Use my pliers to pinch it because some of them are a little tricky. I took the two 10 millimeter bolts out of the fan shroud. I just pushed this out of the way, the little ECU engine control, and then I disconnected the radiator hose, folded it up, put the oil pan, drip pan up underneath it, didn't leak much at all. And then I took out the weight. There's a metal weight for some reasons right here. It makes it easier to access the motor mount bolt if we take the weight out. I believe those were 16 millimeter, maybe a 17 millimeter. And I lifted up the motor just ever so slightly to let the pressure off the motor mount bolts. And I was easily able to get to this one and this one with my impact. You can bust it with a regular ratchet, of course. It's easier with an impact like this. And then the back one was a little trickier. The back further down one down here, I had to put a swivel on it to get that one off. The impact made it a lot easier. I did all this in like 15 minutes or less. It's calling for 2 hours. The motor mount is out. I had to unplug it right here. All of this was super easy because I used the Milwaukee ratchet to get the fan bolts out and the battery bolts out. Pow! And the impact here to get the top weight mount bolts out. And this was handy to get the back motor mount bolt out the rest of the way because it was bound up just a little bit because it had a little bit of pressure on it. It wasn't perfectly lined up. So I was able to use the ratchet in reverse while I was pulling on that belt or that bolt to get it out. It came out right away. But the other tricky thing that I did that made it a lot easier to get the motor mount out was I was having a hard time getting the motor mount out because this little washer type bolt here hole was hitting on the mount bracket down here. So all I did is I put that pry bar in between the motor mount and the motor mount bracket and just pried the bracket out just a little bit because it wanted to hit, it wanted to bind up when I was trying to pull it out. But I got to this point in literally 15 minutes. If you have a lot of fancy tools, it makes it a lot easier, of course. Didn't see anything on this like the other guy said, the one that gave me tips on the 2011, which got me here a lot quicker because he had to take the battery out and tray out. And the ECU was a little trickier for him to get out of the way, but everything else was the same pretty much. The motor mount's a different style, but yeah, super easy to do if you attack it like an animal.